You're listening to Tribe Talk on the Cleveland Indians Radio Network. I'm Mark Schwab, and with me right now, Indians pitcher CC Sabathia signs a long-term deal. CC, congratulations. How's it feel?
Thanks. Feels great. I'm excited.
What did your mom say?
She's real excited. She's came down here and, when the deal started getting close, and, she's really excited just like I am.
She's staying with you?
Yeah, she's staying with me right now. Leaving out tomorrow.
How'd you tell her?
Actually, Jeff told her, because I was at the field, and, Jeff called her and told her first, and then she came down here, and she's excited.
It's amazing how many things can change in a year. Last year at this time, you were just hoping to get on the staff. Now you're all of a sudden one of the go-to guys.
Yeah, last year, I came in spring training. I didn't know if I was going to make the team or not, and got an opportunity to make the team and won some games. And, this year, feeling good and excited about the season.
Does it hit you sometimes, like, the things you've done in a year? You didn't just go out and have a decent year. You went out and had an excellent year for a rookie.
Yeah, I haven't really thought about it too much. I'm excited about getting out there and going again this year. It was fun last year, but hopefully I can do it again this year.
What do your friends at home say?
I haven't told them yet. They'll find out today. I didn't want to tell anybody. I didn't want to, just get it out there. So I haven't told anybody yet. I told them today.
Hard to follow up what you did last year? You just not think of that at all?
Yeah, I'm not going to try to, go out there and try to win 17 games. Just try to help our team win and keep our team close in games, and hopefully we can win some.
Shift gears a little bit. What'd you do in your off season?
I just kind of hung out. I spent some time with my mom because I didn't get a chance to, see her a lot during the season. So, she bought a new house, and I kind of hung out with her.
Oh, today will help that, won't it?
Yeah, definitely. So it's a happy day for us.
What do, when you're at home, off season kicking around, I'm assuming you're just like a normal 21. That's all. Yeah, I know how old you are. I'm sure. You're just like a normal 21-year-old hanging out with the guys, right?
Yeah, definitely. I do the same things I've been doing, go to, my high school basketball games and, kind of kick back with my friends.
Do they, maybe look at you a little different at all, or are they there to keep you in check?
Yeah, they'll keep me in check. They definitely don't, treat me any different. If anything, they treat me worse.
Yeah, now you're buying dinner, right?
Yeah, definitely.
CC Sabathia has been our guest on Tribe Talk. CC, thanks for the time.
Thanks.
Coming up, we'll listen to some of the highlights of today's press conference as Tribe Talk continues here on the Cleveland Indians Radio Network. Well, in case you've been in a cave, CC Sabathia has been signed to a 4-year contract by the Indians with a club option on a 5th year. It could be worth anywhere between $9.5 and $20 million between how many trigger mechanisms CC hits in the contract. We'll look back at today's press conference, starting with the thoughts of his mom, Margie.
I'm very proud of CC. I'm very proud of the city of Cleveland also. I think he'll do well here. Everybody's worried about that sophomore paw or all that crap. It'll never happen. Gotta know CC. You gotta know CC. Be all right.
CC, talk about what you're feeling right now. You just get the long-term deal. A year ago, you weren't even sure if you were going to make the team out of camp.
Excited. Last year I came into camp. Like you said, I wasn't sure if I was going to make the team. Got a chance to make the team and won some games, it's just like a whirlwind, it's been it seems like it was just last year I was, coming into camp and not knowing if I was going to make the team, and this year, sign a long-term deal. I'm very excited.
Mark and then Jeff, there is a risk on both sides. Talk a little bit about the risk factor on both sides.
Well, the risk is what makes the deal difficult to do. The risk for us, sometimes there's a risk in a player's performance, and there's a risk in the person. In this case, and I think the criteria we set, I don't feel any risk in CC Sabathia or his ability to perform. I agree with Margie. The risk is only, for our case, injury. But any injury that's significant in nature makes the contract, because of the arbitration process, skewed to be a bad contract. But risk-reward, I think that this contract was driven for the right reasons. It was driven to keep a consistent philosophy of identifying CC as a core player. And that's what we did by offering him this contract, and that's what he accepted by signing the contract.
Jeff, risk on
well,
the other side?
Look, from a straight economic standpoint, there's always a risk that a player's undersalaried going forward. That was a risk that CC was happy to take on, given the fact that the organization was willing to give him the security long term that allowed this deal to take place. There's a trade-off. It's the I guess the mirror image trade-off that Mark deals with on the club side. But in the end, in balancing out the issues, CC certainly felt, as we did, that it was a deal too good to turn down.
Anybody else?
Did you structure this along the lines of Bartolo's and Jared Wright's contracts?
It's got a lot more creativity in it, a little more protection for CC because of his exceptional accomplishments in his first year. Financially, it's obviously in similar. It's in similar regions, in the similar range.
That would be more dollars.
That's the agent talking. For the radio listeners, it's not hard to identify who said that.
Being the unpredictability of the future, are there any incentive clauses in there, performance clauses?
There are quite a few that are based on health and based on exceptional performance.
Mark, when did you guys begin talking on this? And about how long did it take?
I think Cece and I began talking about it when?
End of the year? August.
Yeah, I think it was August. It wasn't. We weren't negotiating. It was just, would it be something that he'd be interested in? And yes. And Jeff and I started talking about it shortly after the season ended, yes. Probably. And obviously, we had a busy off season with a lot of things that to do. So it wasn't something that we felt. In this situation like this, there's not a time constraint of when it has to happen. So I think it wasn't until we got very close that we felt a sense of urgency to try to get things done, and that was in order to allow Cece to focus on what he wants to focus on most, which is out on the field.
Did anybody here, you guys, want to carry this through to, say, first year free agency, or was that not?
I'd like to carry it through to 3 or 4 years of free agency.
Did you even talk about it?
We talked about a broad range of structures from less years to more years. The one that seemed to make the most sense, again, with all the challenges inherent in this process, the one that made the most sense was the one that had precedent. I think that's safe to say.
Is this an unprecedented contract for a first-year guy, or has this happened before? Have there been other guys that have signed right out of the box?
Slightly unprecedented.
Make him say it.
Yeah, this would be an unprecedented contract for, I think, a person that should set the benchmark.
Jeff, why didn't you want to just kind of go along and maybe knock heads? If CC has another year like this, another 2 years, he's going to make a lot in arbitration. Do you believe in the arbitration process, and did you shy away from it because of it, or did you shy away from it because?
It was tempting. As I said, it was a real, a balancing act of sorts to determine the right amount of money to essentially buy out the arbitration process going forward. And, was it the right amount of money? No one knows today. We made a judgment, though, Ryan Peters, CC, his mother, and I, that it was enough money to make it a safe bet. In the end, it's always tempting to go year by year. I think tempting for the club as well. But there's also, a certainty to this result that just can't be achieved through a year by year process.
How did you feel about security against maybe more money?
I definitely want the security. That's just me. I think other guys feel differently, but that's just me. I definitely want the security.
Were you surprised by the offseason moves the front office made?
I was happy. I'm definitely happy with the moves that we made, and I like our team.
That's not what Bruce wanted to hear. He's on. Trust me. I'll tell you about that later. Bruce wants to go in there and interview John McDonald. That winter press tour.
CC, does it make it easier that this is now in quote in your back pocket to look at what you did last year and parlay it into this year and not have this linger, let's say?
I'm definitely excited about getting ready to go out and try to do it again next year. I really, I thought about last year for maybe 3 or 4 hours, you know, and then I was ready to go. You know, you can ask my mom. We sat down and talked about it for maybe like an hour, hour and a half, and the first thing I said is I'm ready to go. You know, so I'm ready to go right now.
Is there protection built in for you, Mark, for the club, if CC does get hurt, or is that?
I think protection is up to us to secure an insurance, you know, on the insurance front.
Anybody else?
Mark, was the fact that he's a pitcher as opposed to position player impact the difficulty of this contract?
I think, there's probably a greater risk, especially with young pitchers in their health. There's a track record of there being some risk involved. Again, every situation, every contract decision, you weigh risk versus reward, and then I think most importantly, you examine the person. I'm confident that CC's going to do what he can control to minimize those risks, and I think ultimately, as I've said before, in my job and our job as front office people, we can live with the risks of the results that aren't controllable. Losses that we didn't have the ability to impact, injuries that we didn't have the ability to control. Today is about, us controlling the controllable, just like CC talked, very, wisely about focusing on the process. We're focusing on the process of ensuring CC has the ability to go out, mature, develop into a frontline starter, dominant starter in the American League. And I think this lays the foundation for him mentally to be able to do that.
Mark, with doing a contract that was going to run for 4 years, you guys already have a pretty good idea of what kind of budget that you want 3 years from now, or do you have to think about that?
I have a very good idea of the budget I want 3 years from now. I think, Sheldon, our revenues right now are fairly volatile. And so a contract of CC's magnitude, when you're talking about, the levels of service he has, arbitration years, not free agent years, it's possible to do it. Whereas, obviously, in a situation like Jim Thome, it's a much more challenging situation because you're talking about free agent years, that are of very high magnitude. So, we're going to build this team around players like CC in the future, and hope that the result this year will give us more known revenues going forward that will allow us to add players of similar caliber. But it's our revenues going 2, 3, 4 years out. They're a little bit unpredictable right now.
Mark, you said some time ago the priorities for signing guys was CC, then Thome, and I think you put Cologne third. With CC done, Jimmy's, that's not going to happen this season. Mm-hmm. Will you look to maybe go to Bartolo or anyone else, or are you guys going to cool the Jets now for a little bit?
And Chris told me yesterday we're done with multi-year contracts for a while. I think that from a time frame, a sense of urgency, and what makes from a business sense, I don't foresee us doing any multi-years in the very short term. But I'd leave the caveat being there may be a reason compelling some point in the next 6 months to do something. But right now, I think we're going to be in the business of making decisions on this team and putting the best team possible on the field.
It's been a busy couple of days for Mark Shapiro. Today he had this. Yesterday he talked with the media about Bartolo Colon being 28 instead of 26. We'll get his thoughts on that after this as Tribe Talk continues here on the Cleveland Indians Radio Network.